We begin in the physical reality of the 18th century Frankfurt Jewish ghetto. Meyer Amschel Rothschild lives here under strict legal confines. He is barred from farming, from handicrafts, and even from dealing in premium goods like weapons or silk. He is relegated to the low-margin trade of second-hand textiles and soiled household goods. Discontent with the margins of used clothing, Meyer builds a reputation as a shrewd trader of gold coins and antiques. This expertise eventually secures his position as a court agent for Prince William of Hesse-Kassel, managing the prince's vast wealth and gaining direct access to the gold market. This access facilitates a strategy known today as front-running. When the prince requests gold, Meyer borrows money to buy coins first, then sells them back at a markup. He collects an 8% commission while simultaneously profiting as the supplier. By 1782, Meyer has leveraged these dealings into a colossal fortune. His trajectory establishes the foundational Rothschild thesis. Strategic positioning between capital and client generates wealth with minimal exposure, negating the need to own stationary assets. Becoming the richest man in Frankfurt exposes a fatal vulnerability. A fortune tied to a single city is at the mercy of a single government. To ensure the family outlasts local empires, the operation has to expand beyond the borders of Prussia. Meyer dispatches 4 of his 5 sons to establish outposts in the major power centers of Europe: Vienna, Naples, Paris, and London. His 3rd son, Nathan, arrives in Britain right as the Industrial Revolution is transforming the global economy. Nathan verticalizes his textile operation. He supplies the raw cotton, provides the dye, and contracts the manufacturing himself. By taking a profit at all 3 stages of production, he undercuts his competitors and triples his initial investment in a few years. He leverages those gains into high-risk logistics. As military blockades choke the continent, Nathan builds a reputation for moving smuggled textiles and precious metals through restricted ports, keeping supply lines open. In 1812, Meyer's health fails. On his deathbed, the patriarch leaves his sons with a strict directive. Their individual branches must function as a single, unbreakable entity, placing family unity ahead of any localized profit. By the early 19th century, the family functioned as a decentralized, self-sustaining multinational engine. They shared capital, absorbed local economic shocks, and secured their entire logistical system through blood relations. The 19th century brings an endless series of ideological wars to Europe. For a multinational bank, war guarantees massive logistical demand. Armies require foreign currency to purchase supplies, and defeated nations need foreign currency to pay reparations. The Rothschilds weaponize their geography. Using a private network of fast couriers, staged horses, and carrier pigeons, they pass market intelligence across borders days ahead of official government channels, allowing them to front-run currency trades across the continent. When the Duke of Wellington's army pushes into France, they desperately need French coin to pay troops and buy supplies. Nathan buys up 800,000 pounds of gold from the East India Company, coordinates its conversion, and successfully smuggles it through hostile territory directly to the British lines. As Europe industrializes, the youngest brother, James, applies that accumulated war capital to civilian infrastructure. Working out of Paris, he orchestrates massive syndicates to dominate the financing of the emerging European railroad network. By the late 1840s, the French government is drowning in debt, and the Rothschild Bank in Paris is pushed to the brink of insolvency. In London, Nathan's son Lionel steps in, extending a massive, high-risk loan across the English Channel to absorb his uncle's losses. A standard competitor would have let the failing branch collapse to protect their own balance sheet. But the London bailout demonstrates the family's structural failsafe. They willingly take on severe, localized losses to protect the Rothschild name from ever defaulting. Their strict risk calculations occasionally leave openings for competitors. During the 1870 conflict between France and Prussia, the Rothschilds determine France cannot win and refuse to finance them. An American banker named Junius Morgan takes the other side of that bet, raising £10 million for the French army. Morgan realizes that a diversified French economy can repay the debt regardless of military defeat. The French prepay the bonds in 1873, handing Morgan a massive windfall and establishing his firm as a formidable rival in sovereign finance. 2 decades later, the American railroad boom implodes, triggering the Panic of 1893. The economic collapse drains the United States Treasury, leaving the federal government dangerously close to running completely out of gold reserves. Junius's son, J.P. Morgan, orchestrates a rescue. Knowing the Rothschilds have spent decades acquiring gold mining interests, Morgan partners with them to source 3.5 million ounces of gold, stepping in to rescue the United States government. For years, the family viewed the United States as a chaotic market, but the 1893 intervention forces a strategic pivot. They deploy their immense hard asset reserves to buy their way into the financial architecture of the next global superpower. The industrial capacity they helped finance eventually turns on itself. By the early 1900s, escalating military budgets and rigid alliances plunge Europe into full-scale war. The immense scale of the conflict tears the family's decentralized model apart. For the first time, individual banking houses are cut off from one another, forced to finance opposing sides of the trenches depending on the flag flying over their city. Barely 2 decades later, a more severe threat emerges. As German armored divisions blitzed across Europe in the spring of 1940, the Nazi state explicitly targets the Jewish banking dynasty for eradication. The French and Austrian branches face immediate physical peril. Family members are forced into rapid exile to the United States or Britain, abandoning generational estates, which are quickly seized and liquidated by the occupying forces. A century of political alliances provided zero leverage against the brute force of ideological genocide. When confronted with total war, financial wealth offered no protection against military confiscation. The family survives and consolidates in London, but the financial landscape shifts entirely. By the 1980s, the rise of complex derivatives and massive international megabanks triggers an internal civil war over the future of the institution. Jacob Rothschild argues the firm must adopt aggressive corporate expansion and public capital to compete. His cousin, Sir Evelyn, rejects this. He insists that modernizing the ownership structure will dilute the family's absolute control over their own bank. The risks of modern corporate alliances soon materialize. The bank had financed the media mogul Robert Maxwell. When investigations reveal Maxwell was misappropriating hundreds of millions from his employees' pension funds, the scandal drags the Rothschild name into intense public scrutiny. Maxwell disappears off his yacht near the Canary Islands in 1991. The highly public fallout from his death reinforces Sir Evelyn's warning. Aggressive public ventures attract chaotic exposure, and exposure threatens the integrity of the name. The internal dispute is resolved by rejecting the modern Wall Street model. The family diversifies its wealth into private equity and asset management, but keeps the core banking institution tightly held and entirely private. They did not build the longest-running financial dynasty in history by chasing every available margin. They survived by cultivating the discipline to turn down limitless growth in exchange for absolute control, ensuring their name outlasts the empires they finance.